Now, during the last Parliament, Emily Thornbury, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, emerged as a favourite to one day succeed Jeremy Corbyn. In 2017, she was tipped by sources close to Len McCluskey, the General Secretary of Unite, no less. He reportedly described her as a tough cookie who's not afraid of taking big decisions. But right now, she's towards the back of the race, with fewer than 10 of the 22 nominations required. Time is running out. The deadline tomorrow is at 2:30, and she joins me now. Can you do it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what's happened has been that we've only had a week to get the nominations in. There's a large number of MPs who haven't nominated yet, and many of them have wanted to speak to their party members. They wanted to go to the hustings and think about this, because obviously it's a really important decision. But from the conversations that I've had this weekend, I'm fairly confident that so long as I don't get any slippage, I'll be fine. I'm going to get across the line, and then we'll move on to the next stage. It's a long contest, and it'll have its ups and downs. And I've been a slow starter, but I did start from a standing start after the general election.
So why have you been a slow starter? Because you were, as I say, tipped by a lot of people to be the favourite for this, and you're towards the back. What's gone wrong over the last year or two? Well,
no. I don't think anything's gone wrong over the last year or two. I think that we had a very bad election result, and people are in a state of grief. And they need to think very carefully about what happens next. And in the end, it'll be up to 500,000 members to decide at the beginning of April. I was thinking about this morning. I had a really good friend who was, he used to organise the bin men and the dinner ladies and this sort of thing. And he died last year. He'd been a friend of mine for 30 years. He was a councillor. And a mutual friend of ours had gone in to see him on his deathbed. And they were having a gossip, as you do. And he said, that Emily Thornbury, she's a tough old bird. And I wasn't very flattered when I heard it.
Is that your basic campaign slogan, a tough old bird?
But I wasn't very flattered by it. But, there are lots of us in the Labour Party, and there are lots of us in the trade union movement. And I come from a long line of tough old birds, and there have been lots of tough old birds in the Labour Party. It would be great for there to be one who becomes leader of the Labour Party. But we have several months to make a decision.
Let me put to you a theory about why you might have been in some trouble, which is that you were, above everybody else, probably most associated with the Remain case around Brexit. You were the person who said, this is a Remain party, and we're going to prove that Britain is a Remain country. And, of course, exactly the reverse happened. Perhaps on this issue, you're just out of touch.
I think that it was disastrous for us to go into a general election in those circumstances. I accept that. But I really did try to stop us going for a general election. What my view was that you couldn't have a general election over one issue. That was basically a referendum. That what Boris Johnson should have done, we should have held him to account, and we should have said, yes, all right, let's get Brexit done. Let's have a referendum. Let's find out if people like your deal. And then, once we had done that and people had decided one way or the other, it's a really, really big decision, then you have a general election. But by doing what we did, we let him wrap himself up in the lie that he could get Brexit done without a referendum, and he got 5 years in power as a result of it, and that's been a disaster for our country.
If it was, in effect, as you say, a referendum, then at least we know the result. So it leads me to ask, if Emily Thornbury becomes leader of the Labour Party, does the Labour Party become a return to the EU party?
No, I think what we do is we have to be pragmatic and practical about it. We are leaving at the end of January, and I'm afraid, with deep regret, that is what's going to happen. So now the fight has to move on to how are we going to leave? What is the deal going to be? Because, again, the spectre of no deal emerges again, and we might leave at the end of the year with no deal. Not just a no deal with Europe, but also there are a whole load, there's 40 different trade agreements that we have through being in Europe that will also need to be negotiated. So how on earth Boris Johnson really honestly thinks he's going to be able to negotiate all of those things in that time frame is extraordinary. And we have to hold him to account on that. Basically, this is what he's promised. That's what he has to do. We will, of course, do our best to try to ensure that we get the best possible deal. We'll fight him in the Commons. I will fight him at the dispatch box and hold him to account on that. But they have the votes, and it'll be, and if it goes as badly as I genuinely fear it will, he has to own that, and he has to take responsibility for it. There is no shirking this. He has decided this is the way forward, and having got this majority, it's a bit like universal credit. When I was Social Security Minister, Shadow Social Security Minister, I fought universal credit. I pointed out all the difficulties that there were going to be. And you have all these votes, but if you don't have the numbers, you're not able to amend
Right.
the legislation.
Now, there's one